think of the word honeysuckle and your mind automatically goes to that terrible invasive species from Japan, Lonicera japonica. But you know, there's some really very attractive native forms that are not at all invasive. Take for example this lovely one called Lonicera major wheeler. Here's a selection of our native trumpet honeysuckle that is really attractive. Just look at these beautiful, bright, narrow tubular flowers. And then remember that these are the sort of flowers that hummingbirds just love to come to visit. What's neat about this plant is that it gets to about 8 foot or so. It flowers on both the old wood and the new wood. So if you desire, you can go in after the flushes of flowers finish and you can trim it back if you desire. If you don't want to, that's okay. It will still grow and flower perfectly well. It makes a good plant for growing on an arbor, on a fence, on a trellis, or even scrambling over other plants. And what we've noticed over the years when we've grown it here is that it's particularly good too for being able to resist or withstand things like mildew, diseases that sometimes attack other forms of honeysuckles. You can see by the picture when I zoom in here that later on, as it gets established, it's going to become very free flowering. These are only young plants here, so it'll take them a little while to get into a mature stage to really carry that bulk of flowering, but one day it will. What's also neat about this plant is that it's hardy and very reliable and, as I say, easy to grow. It's a selection that was discovered by a couple that lived in Raleigh, North Carolina. Pat and Charles Wheeler were out one day on the Emerald Isle on North Carolina's Crystal Coast, driving along when all of a sudden Pat noticed this bright red mound growing on a construction site in a sand dune. Brought the car to a halt, turned around and went back, and there they seen that it was a particularly good form of our native honeysuckle. Worried about it being a construction site, they decided that they were going to rescue the plant, which they did, and they took it home to their home in Raleigh. Now at that time, Charles Wheeler was the president of the North Carolina Botanical Garden Foundation. And so they took some cuttings, brought it to the staff at the Botanic Gardens, who rooted the cuttings, and then later on they shared them with niche gardens. And together they decided to introduce the plant and name it after Charles Wheeler. What's neat about it is that, of course, we got stock from there, and now we're able to pass it on to you and to tell you all about it. It's a really very, very good form of our native honeysuckle that has got numerous awards over the years, including a gold medal from the Pennsylvania Horticultural Society in 2015. This is Lonicera major wheeler.